Hello, I'm Carmen, one of the freedom modelers here at Firestorm, and we'll be continuing with our environment today. Right, so I've changed up my setup again from last week because I lie. It was Tuesday. I changed my setup from Tuesday. Because on Tuesday, my camera stopped working and my mic kept cutting out, and so on and so forth. Bottom line is, it was utter chaos, and not quite ideal. However, hopefully all is resolved now. So yeah, bottom line is, we're continuing with the environment. I've still not organized everything, but we will be organizing everything at some point. I'll probably do it off stream because organization is quite boring to watch. Let's be real. So, this is sort of where we left off last time, and we are still working on the bridge to basically explain the bridge, because the bridge makes no sense at this point. Let me hop out of there, and then we can quickly view it. Just gonna give that a second to load, because it's not being very cooperative. Right, let's move this off to the side, just so it's a temporary solution, just so we can see everything. Alright, now this is obviously too big. It's too big, I'll admit that. I'm not too concerned with that right now. Bottom line is, the plan would be to connect this up to a building and have the option to basically walk into the tower from there. Still need to add stairs, and honestly, a lot of details. So we will be doing that. I'm not sure how far we'll get today specifically, but we will be looking at that. So bottom line is, some things I want to change. I would like to fix these pieces here because, I mean, they're floating in the air. That makes no sense. So we'll be fixing that. I would want to detail this top portion a little bit more. I'd like to add some form of a pillar in this area, just to add some, I don't know, some interest. There is a slight flaw in our system down at the bottom here, where it's not quite connecting up. And then, what else? I think that's the gist of where we're at. There might be more things I want to change down the line, but those are the main things. And then obviously we need a door. We need a door over here. So we'll be taking a look at adding those. How much we'll get through today, I don't know. It depends how long it takes. As actually, that's my answer to everything. It depends. That is okay. Everything depends, guys. Everything depends. But yeah. Now I'm quickly going to check what is actually in this network, because and was our agreeable setup. I'm actually going to keep this because about 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago? I had a viewer that was asking about greebles and how to place them, and just ways to place them basically. So we went over a network back then. It's a pretty basic setup. Basically, you've got a bunch of options: a box, torus, cylinder, all of those, and then a null, just so that every segment isn't copied into. That gets merged, and then you get a curve. Draw the curve, resample it, orient it, all of that, because you're copying to points eventually. Then you add an attribute from pieces. That basically just allows you to adjust the percentage of each greeble you want, and then that gets copied to points and merged along with the sweep, because I wanted to sweep as well. So yeah, but bottom line is, that's roughly that setup. Now we will probably be taking a look at some form of a greeble at some point, just to add further detailing to everything, because as it is currently, we've not got a lot to work with in terms of detailing. I've messed a lot with this roof, as you guys know. In fact, I spent like 2 or 3 streams on this roof, and I could never get it the way I wanted it. But in hindsight, depending on what we want to do with this environment, right? If it's a film environment, sure, we can do the geo. But if we flip it to a game environment, we could potentially use Substance Designer to make a roof tile instead, and that'll be a lot easier to randomize and work with. So I'm actually considering scrapping the roof tiles as a whole and pivoting in another direction, and then obviously using textures to sell it instead, because let me get my Do I want to keep that? What was it? No, I can discard it. Yeah, it's fine. Hello. Why aren't you... Is this window locked? No, it's not locked. This is sort of my mood board inspiration. Some of you guys might have seen it before, but bottom line is these are AI generated images. Quick disclaimer on that. The reason I've went for these is I was looking for inspiration. I was not looking for a concept. I wanted to take inspiration from these and sort of build from there. So that is my disclaimer done for today. Bottom line is this is sort of the inspiration I had, or the mood board, whatever you want to call it, and where was I going with this? Sorry guys, apparently I've not had enough coffee this morning. So, right. Depending on where I place my camera, and how I place my buildings, I do not need the geo on the rooftops. You know, the roof tiles. I probably don't need the roof tiles. Does it add something? Yes, but again, it depends because from... Let's take this one for example. If I was to place the camera similarly to that, I personally believe that I could sell this with, what do you call it? With textures. And if I could do it with textures, that'll be a lot easier and a lot quicker to do. And a lot less finicky because then it's just UV based. And I will be using Substance Designer most likely for all of these textures. I could even implement displacement if I wanted to, but for, again, this is sort of our area where we'll have to decide, is this a game environment or is it a film environment? If it's a film environment, yes, I can use displacement. If it's a game environment, I'd probably not use displacement because the way displacement works is you need a lot of geo, right? So choices. But yeah, bottom line is I think what? I think I'm not too concerned with it. I think we'll probably either go for a game environment, but if it was a game environment, we'd probably use not trim sheets as well. We could use trim sheet, but we probably wouldn't build the houses in this way. We'd probably build them, have like a wall. I'm explaining this very badly. Wait. Let's grab geo. Just a geometry node, and then we'd basically have something like, not necessarily a plane, it could be, I call it a plane, it's a grid in Houdini. Not necessarily a grid, it could be just a really thin square, box, cube, anything along those lines, not a square. Well, it is a square, but right, it's going to be one of those streams. My thought process is out the window this morning, but we're going to ignore that. We want to turn this by 90. Right, so what you typically have for a game environment is pieces like this with maybe some have windows cut out, maybe some have planks, and they'd basically be interlocking. And you then, let's say you had this one, and then you had maybe, I'm going to do something that I'm not supposed to do. At least not if I want to work procedurally. But let's say you had one with a window. Alright? That's a very ugly window. Okay, but it's fine. Or you had maybe one with a door. And then you would obviously place these. Alright? And you typically, let's use match size, why not? Match size, that gets plopped into there, that goes to there, and I actually want this to be min. And then I'm going to plop all of them there. And then, let's say this was long wall, you then obviously, I'm just going to use a transform because it's going to be the quickest to demo that. But you can then grab these, transform them, move them over to build your house, right? And then you'd merge them. Let me just merge them so I can actually view them all together. merge, that gets plopped into there, that goes into there, that goes into there. And you merge them, you grab them, you move them. Brilliant. Now obviously you do this in a better way, but bottom line is that's the process you'd follow. Depending, right? Because if you don't have an interior, and you're working with a cube rather than, let's say, a plane or a grid, then I'd argue the cube takes too much geo, because then you've got back faces. Yes, you can delete them, but you've got back faces, you've got faces on the top and the bottom, things like that. So then I would argue that my method is better. But it depends on the environment, right? So if you wanted to create an environment with interiors and all those things, then yes, you'd create them like this rather than out of a solid block like I did. Let me just check that I'm deleting the right one. Yes, it's that one. So bottom line is there's sort of different approaches, because as it is currently, there's no interior to these. Which is perfectly fine for what I'm creating. It does the job, because I'm looking for a pretty render. I'm not looking for a playable environment. But yeah, I'm going off completely off track here, but bottom line is that's sort of the thought process behind my current setup. So, what are we doing? We are fixing our bridge. Now, the first thing I wanted to fix is actually these towers, because I call them towers, miniature towers. So the way they're built is they're copying to these points and then I'm rotating them, cheating the system. However, that's all well and good, except for the fact that these points are further out than the center point here. So therefore, no longer lines up. So, yes. What we could do is we could do a transform and scale them in and do whatever, but I'm not quite sure whether that's what I want to do. What is this? That is that. So that's scaling, that's fine. Copying to points, right. So we could use still copy to points, but if we wanted to do it that way, we'd have to transform it and shrink it down. Which, yes, we can do, but do we want to? Wait a moment. That is rotating. So that is fine. Dissolve. You can already see it's actually, we did shrink it a little bit, I think. No, we scaled it up. Why did we scale it up? Let's take it back to 1. My electricity just flashed. So hopefully I didn't drop the stream. I should have tested the Wi-Fi before I started, because last week, and the week before actually, had a lot of trouble with Wi-Fi. But okay, so let's just view that for a second. Right, and that's probably why I adjusted it. I don't like how that looks. So, how do we fix that? We've got two options. We either extend this portion outwards, and have like a little ledge for them to stand on, or alternatively, we change the angle of the roof. Choices, choices, choices. I'd say what? I'd say we maybe add a ledge. Maybe that'll be interesting. It could be. It could be. Right, was just quickly checking whether my camera had failed again, because it did. Again, it did the previous stream. Thankfully, it has not. So, focusing again for half a second, let's see what we can do about this. So that is all going to be related to the initial tower. So, where's that? Wow. I've really not organized any of this tower. Brilliant. Right, so the tower is over here. Half the nodes aren't even in the little box, but we're gonna ignore that. Right. So we've got two options. We can either extrude this portion outwards, which is going to look pretty ugly. Let's quickly jump back up. What have we got? So that goes to there. And that's extruded outwards. Which is fine. It's fine. However, that's going to make it very difficult to work with. I don't want to extrude outwards again, so that's not really an option. What I could do, I could sweep this edge with something like tube, but that's not gonna be very pretty, is it? If I sweep that, let me see where I'm grabbing that, because I could potentially, if I did end up sweeping, I could do it there, but the problem is, what type of profile would look good there? Well, let's do a sweep and just see what we get. If I hate it, I delete it and we pivot. I'm not too concerned about it. What's this? That's the inner portion. Brilliant. We've got overlapping geo. We're gonna ignore that. I should probably boolean these together instead of merging. Let's do that. Now, am I supposed to actually be adding the sweep? Yes, but for now we're actually going to pivot this. Alright, that goes there, and that should hopefully get rid of our inner geo, and then that goes into where? Here. Right, can get rid of the merge. Brilliant. Right, so moving on. We do want the sweep, so I'm going to dissolve the flat edges on the blast. Again, this is using what do you call it? The Labs plugin. So it's not a fault with Houdini. You have to install it separately. Yeah, that's about it. It's basically you just press install. It's on the, wait, let me actually show it. Houdini launcher. Why not? Right, so you just go to Labs and Packages and install. So bottom line is, most of you that use Houdini probably already knows that, but bottom line is you can access it there. Right, so that just basically gets rid of the faces and the edges in the center. Pretty self-explanatory. We've got a sweep. Brilliant. What am I going to do there? Yeah, let's do a merge. Why not? No, that's not how you spell merge. We grab a merge. There we go. That goes into there, that goes into there, and I'll just plop that into there. Temporary solution. I actually like that sweep in general, so I might implement more of those. Maybe. Potentially. We'll see. But bottom line is that's not quite what we want though, so let's adjust the radius. We could completely scale it up. That looks quite stupid, quite frankly. We could do a square tube instead. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. We could add a custom profile. You know what we're going to do? What if we leave the sweep because it's not bothering me? Is it what I want exactly? No. No, it's not. But it does add something to the overall design, so I'm not mad at that. However, I'm thinking if we sweep this edge instead, that might give us a little bit of a better look. Because again, the problem is the towers have nowhere to stand. So if we add a little bit of either, it could be a sweep. I'm not sold on the default settings, so I'm not sold on square or round. We might want a custom profile. So we can take a look at that at some point. But bottom line is, this sweep I'm actually going to keep, because if we merge all of these together, that actually adds a nice detail. I might want one going over here as well. Maybe. Potentially. We'll see. We'll see. Let me write it down before I forget. Okay, just drop the book. It's fine. It's fine. Let's fix it. Right, so that is going to be add sweeps. top. Now the reason I make notes is because when I get into my network and I start playing, I tend to forget things. Especially when I get hyper fixated on a specific area or specific thing, then I forget. I can't remember everything. I had a mentor that used to say he has the memory of a goldfish, and I think uh, mm, I got that as well. So right, so we are going to add sweeps, and while we're at it, let's quickly check what the other things was. I wanted to fix the bottom of the windows. I lie, bottom of the arches. I know why it's broken. I do not know the solution for fixing them, but we'll get there. We'll get there. And then, what was the other thing I wanted to fix? Oopsie, I don't want to be doing that. Right. I wanted to fix the tower itself, but I'm already working on that, so that's fine. I think we can maybe look at adding the stairs as well. Add stairs, why not? And then the other thing I wanted to start looking at is actually adding things we can adjust. Potentially. Okay, so this is sort of another area I have to decide what I want to do, because my tower specifically is quite editable as well as the houses. This bridge, not at all. Now, is that a problem? I don't know. It might not be. In the sense of, okay, so it's not very changeable, but it's also a key feature in the environment in the sense of it's probably going to be a focus point. And with it being a focus point, I might not want it repeating. And if I don't want it repeating, I don't need the ability to change it. And quite frankly, I've not built this network in a way that allows me to change it in a very easy way. With the tower and with the houses specifically, I built the entire network with the thought of changing things in mind. So, due to the fact that I've not considered that with this bridge, I'm going to have a very, very tough time actually changing things. Um, it's not that I've done manual placement, because I've not. But I've not really. I mean, this is archways, for example, not a curve. That already makes it less changeable. It's just a cube of a bevel. Then this archway specifically I can change, but the exterior and the interior curves differs a little bit, and the scale differs, so that makes it more difficult. If we're talking about this is again just a cube that's been beveled. Could I change this with something else? Maybe, but I'm going to have a tough time. I can't really change the height of this tower, but I'm not going to go on this tangent too long. But the bottom line is, I've not taken into changes into account when I was making this. So yes, there's some elements I could potentially change, but again, is it going to be worth the time spent changing this network in order to allow me the ability to change things when I'm just going to use it once? So why do I need the ability to change things? Alright, so, so. Enough talking. Let's get some work done. Bottom line is, I like the sweep. I want it here as well. I want it a lot of places, maybe here. It just splits it up and makes it a little bit more interesting. So let's take a look at things. I could... Is there a way of only selecting horizontal edges? That would have been a cool... I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna Google it. I'm not above Googling it. Let's see. Edge direction. There's a group function for selecting by edge direction. I never knew that. Wait, let's check. Group. Let's grab probably at this point, because I technically want sweeps everywhere. That's not the full tower though. Let's quickly void this sweep and then grab that, plop that into there. Then we actually need to bounding region normals include by edges. Alright. So we actually want to change this to edges. What does this do? Nothing. Uses each edge angle uses angle between edges. Brilliant. Don't know what that does. Am I crazy? Edge direction threshold. We could do by normals. I think. Maybe. Potentially. We do something like up. No, but that's not going to do that. We don't want bounding region. Geometry filter, that's fine. Group swap with the include by edges option. So it is the include by edges option. The minimum edge. But this does nothing. Am I crazy to say this does nothing? I don't think I am. Let's split by geometry. Spreadsheet. Brilliant. What's the other option? Or use a group find path. No, but that's not a grid-like geometry. Okay, so that's not going to work in any case. Because at the moment, it looks like it's selecting all edges, which I don't actually want that. Let's do a group delete. Group delete. I just want to clean this up a little bit. I might need the groups at some points, but just for half a second, so I can actually see what things are doing. Right? So that is by edges. Base group, that's fine. That is edges. For edge groups only, when this option is checked. But this really does nothing. Let me see. Don't want to do that. There is code for it as well, but that would not quite be ideal. I don't want to go into the code side of things. So, let's see. Unshade edges. Am I crazy to think this is not working? Right, so that's not an option. Could do... I don't want to do it by bounding box though. And I don't want to blast everything out either, because that's just going to be clunky as hell. Right, and I don't want to manually select. I really don't want to manually select, so that's not an option. Let's see. Maybe I'm missing something. There's a video, but why do I have sound on this video? I've got sound turned off. There we go. Brilliant. Oh, but they're using attribute wrangle. I don't want to use attribute wrangle. I want to use a group. Right, so no. That is not what I want. Right, let's see. Am I really going to get stuck here? I hope not. I hope not. Let's see. I'll select. Pattern selection? can maybe try pattern selection. No, I don't want sound. Why are these all by sound by default? Right. So they're all using group by ranges. Let's try it. Let's try it. Now, I don't know how to flip a group by range, but we are going to try it with a group by range. Maybe it magically works the way I want it to. Alright. We want edges. Hello. Why is that not an option? Base group, group name. Surely I can. Okay, apparently not. Right, points, primitives. Let's do points. Why not? If we do by points, and we... How do I turn that off though? Right. So that gives us that. If we do by points, because technically these are all the points I want to sweep. Well, maybe not the interior ones, but okay. What if we dissolve... Can we dissolve or blast everything except the points? Let's try blast. Group 1. Delete non-selected. No, that's not going to give me anything. Primitives? No. Convert. Let's try convert. No. Convert to line. Alright, so that'll give me that. Brilliant. Remove unused points, connect path, that's all well and good. Is there really no way to turn this into edges? Merge method. Right, okay, so that gives me that. That's a start. We've got edges that could be swept. Bottom line is we still need a way to delete the ones we do not want. Right, so how are we doing that? Let's grab a group again. Not a group copy, just normal group. Just do a normal group. And that goes into there. We could do... I still think normals aren't the wrong way to do it. Could we only have normals pointing up? No. Right, no. And then include by edges. I still can't figure out how this one works. Right, no. Let's try something else. I might hate this. Hello, why did you break? That goes from A, that goes after the boolean. Alright, so that gets plopped into this boolean. No, but I actually want this to merge back up. So let's do a merge. I've broken everything. Do not worry, I'll fix it. So that boolean goes into there, that goes into there, that goes into there. Now, is this initially what I had in mind? No, but if it works, I'm not going to be too mad. I actually like that. Is this what I wanted? No. But it's not terrible. So. Are we going to keep it? Ideally, I wouldn't want the roofs to be affected, though. Could I grab those groups and remove them from the sweep? Potentially. Now, again, this isn't quite what I had in mind, but that doesn't mean it's unusable. It just means it's different. So, let me quickly check. Now, I know there's a group delete in here. So, let's remove that. Point number 1. Point number 2. Right, so we've got that. But if we go into here, we've got groups getting deleted. Alright, so that's not really an option, because obviously as the extrudes kind of build on top of each other, I'm sometimes keeping the groups, because I'm grouping by front, I'm grouping by side, I'm doing a lot of grouping. So bottom line is, if I were to try and keep, no, if we're trying to sweep all of these, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. Right. The alternative, which is very clunky, it's very clunky, but the alternative is I grab all of these different parts in the network. So let's take polyfill, for example. I could grab, let's do blast. I could grab it at this point, maybe at the match size point actually, which I've done that there, but okay. And then I do that, right? Then I could go and sweep these, grab those, that as well. Let me just check that's in the same place. It is. Alright, so I could grab that there. In terms of this part, I could grab the top. So I could then do another blast, but actually have it come from that point. Alright, remove the patch. And I could do front. Then that'll give me the top, but I don't actually want that top because that, let's keep it for a moment. Now again, this gets very clunky and I don't like it, but it'll be functional. So if we take that point, we could then, do we have an output side on this? Yes, we do. So then we could do another blast. Now, again, this is not the most functional network I've ever created. And I'm not quite happy with how this is going. However, it is technically... Why is it giving me both? Should I turn preserve groups off? Well, if I have that, I no longer need... Do you need that? I no longer need that one. So that reduces some of it down. And then we've got the bevel though. What are we doing with the bevel? Does the bevel come with a group? Yes, it does. Offset edges, point fill polys, point, I say filled, fillet, fillet, I don't know. Bottom line is we've got that, so let's do a blast on that. I'm just quickly going to test whether that actually works. So plop that into there. What's this? Don't want that. Alright, so it's not that. Let's see. Okay, but that's just templated. Okay, so that works. And then let's grab those. Plop that there. Now again, is this ideal? No, no, it's not. But if it works, I'm not going to be mad. So let's do a merge. I'm going to do a merge and then plop that into there, that into there, and that into there. Alright. And then let's grab that sweep. No, I don't want to connect it up to anything though. That's fine. Let's grab that. That gets deleted. That can, in theory, go into there. So that gets... That does that. Why do you do that? That gets blasted. So that's the top portion, that is that. So I'm not really avoiding anything here, just due to the vertical edges again. Unless, let's try group by range. I don't think that's going to work though, because a group by range can't select edges, which I quite frankly find quite annoying. Let's do, yeah, I see that, can't do that. I don't want to select primitives. We could do point. Points gives us that. Let's do dissolve. Because we're just running into the same issue, aren't we? What does just a dissolve do? Nothing we want. Right, so dissolve. If we do a dissolve flat edges, this will again gives us very similar to what we have, just with slightly less edges. Can we? Now see, that is not a solution. Max edge angle. So that destroys that one, that destroys that one, that gives me that. So none of those are really an option, right? Let's go back to a convert. That gives us that. Right, plan B. What is plan B? You guys have suggestions? I'd be very happy to hear them. Right, we're not doing a group by range. We can't do a normal direction because a normal direction is still going to select those in between edges. Alright, so that's out of the window. We've got the blasts technically functional. They're just not functioning in the way I want them to function. Which is fine. It is fine. Let's see. And I was so excited about this. I thought I would have a brilliant plan. I did in fact not have a brilliant plan. Right, so I've completely broken my network, I've just realized. That gives me that. I actually want this to go into there. Why have I lost my window? Arch Boolean. No, poly extrude. No, I don't want that. Where's my sweep gone? Because I've got a sweep over here, but it's not that one. It's that one. So technically, no, I'm crazy. It's not that one. Dissolve flat edges is currently doing nothing. I'm still not sure where my windows went. So that goes not into there. That gives me that. Merge together. Brilliant. Window boolean is up to there. Okay, so that's all fine and well and good. That's still functional. So technically I've not broken everything yet. Alright. In terms of the actual thing, I'm still not sure. But let me do some thinking. We may revisit this rather than trying to figure it out now. However, I do know that we're getting somewhere in the sense of the overall style we're going for. So it's not all lost. I've just not quite figured out how to do what I want to do. I would have thought normals would be the way to go, quite frankly, but it's not. It's not. But right, I'll be right back. I'm going to take a quick water break, and then we'll continue playing with this. So see you in a bit. It'll be like a 2-minute break. Let's do a 2-minute break. We're back with the solution. So I did take a water break, but I also did some more searching. So, the way include by edges works, right? Which I didn't know because I've never used it before. I've wanted to use it before, could never get it to work. Right, so maybe I did need to do this stream. Specifically so I could figure this out because this is very useful and would save me a lot of time in the future. So, in order for include by edges to work, you've got two rules. Now, I did follow one of them, did not follow the other. So, if we look up here, we've got a base group. If base group is turned on, doesn't work. Why? I don't know. Just doesn't. So base group needs to be off. Then you can use by min or max angle. That is it. Now, as you'll notice, this selects specifically the vertical angles, which it's not quite what we want. We could potentially look at, can we invert group? Let's invert group. Can we? Group invert. Brilliant. Plop that one into there. Group name is group 14. And then I'm gonna call this group sweep. Alright, so then magic sweep. Plop that into there and specify where did my group sweep go? Auto, edges, sweep. Am I crazy? What if, or could we do a blast for this? Alright, so I figured half the problem out. I've not figured the full problem out. But, I mean, half the problem is half the battle, right? So we're gonna blast. We are going to grab group 14, and that's going to be edges. No, to view it from here. Is it really going to do that to me? Yes, okay. Could we do a dissolve instead? Let's see. And let us see, group 14, dissolve selected. Or, could we do convert? I'm really playing with it now to try and figure out how we can do this. So that gives us that. So technically if we plop that into there and specify sweep without the group 14, we've left off. Right, that gives us that, and then we can sweep that, and that'll give us that. Perfect. However, my thought process is now as follows. We can now select the edges we want, in theory. Alright? In theory, we can select the edges we want. So I'm hoping we can now bypass the blasts. Because, alright, so that gives us that. And that's technically all the ones we want to sweep. So if we grab that and plop that into the group, what does that give us? Our problem is as follows. We need to change. Can we add a minimum angle as well? No, revert to... No, can we revert to... I don't like that it does that. Alright, so that gives us that. That is all well and good. I don't like that it's selecting the bottom faces as well. Alright, so that gives us that. I needed to not select the other one. So let me try. Because technically I want similar to that, because it's already deselecting those for us, which means we won't have to invert, which is nice. So that will increase the selection to those for the most. Use angle between unshared. I'm just gonna play with this a little bit to see what I get. Let's zero that one out. Because this isn't perfect, right? It's not perfect. What we could do, we could say these are... Could I convert this section to primitives? No. Has to be edges. So if we grab these, but I do want that edge as well. Right, let's try the other one. Will it work? Don't know. Don't know. That's interesting. Right. That gives me that. Which, if I invert the selection, group invert, that gives me this, which is very similar to what we had before. So I'm wondering if I were to then do another group. Alright, another group, also include by edges based upon... Oh, but base group needs to be turned off for this. Now I technically want sweep, so let's do edges, sweep. Alright. Now we might have to do a blast first. So let's do a blast. Let's do a blast. So that is going to be edges. And that is going to be that one. No, that's also not going to work. So we've technically got this working. So I just need a way. What if I convert that to a line? Convert line. And we do sweep. Why not? That gives me that. And if we remove the template, that is what we got. Right? That's progress. It's definitely progress. If we then were to do another group, alright, group, plop that into there, clip our edges again, remove the base group, and then do max angle. Needs to be edges. Why aren't you selecting anything? There we go. It's not that one. See, that's close. It's very, very close. But not what I want. Right, so that's that one. Alright, so that's that one. Let's do this one then. It gets me so close, but it just does not give me what I want. And I don't know why. Minimum edge length. Right. That gets those cancelled out. Edge depth. Choices. That's not gonna work, is it? I really hope this would work. Alright. Could we add normal direction on top of? Because I don't want left and right being selected. Unshared edges. That does nothing. Keep our random chance. Keep our normals. Let's reduce that for a moment. That is 0. Let's turn that off for a moment. We technically want... Do we want up? We might want up. So let's try one there. And just see at what point. Okay, so that just does that. Which again is not what we want. So that's 0. What if we do that as 1 and that as 1? That's still going to do that. I wonder if we got rid of the normals at this point. Okay, group. This is still the closest we've gotten. Because this is technically perfect for this one and that one. So the ones we're not getting here is the one on the bottom. It's basically these. And that one. So it's so close, it's just not there. Group in group invert. Alright, so that is that. And the group is group 16. And we are calling this just something. I just want to see where we are. No, we technically don't want to invert. If we look at this, we don't want to invert. Right, back to the drawing board. Minimum angle, edge length. That is the closest we've gotten, but that is not what we want. That gives me that. This gives me nothing. Now see. That's so close. That's so close to what we want. The only part I don't want is these every second edge. Why is it selecting every second edge? Because now we've got the sweep for those outer edges. We've got the sweep for the inner edges. We've got those. We've got those. The only part not working is the bottom. And the problem is it goes directly, switches over the second I do that. And I don't want to be manually selecting them. We won't need those. And I don't want to keep them either. Don't want to keep them. So that's group 16. No, we probably want to do, what's it, convert to line there. And that's going to be group 16, not sweep. See, that's so close. That's so close. It's just this bottom portion. Why? Why? Right. If we sweep it as it is, it's going to look quite funny. The alternative is if we can get those added back in, but then we get the ones up top as well. Which is not what we want. That's so annoying. What if we do a dissolve, flat edges, no, before the convert. That'll get rid of those. Alright, so that gets converted to a line. Brilliant. Then we do another group. I think that might have just fixed it. I think that might have just fixed it. Let's do a sweep. Brilliant. I think it worked. I think it worked. We've still not got a sweep for the actual pillars, which was the point of all of this, was to get a point for the, I say pillars, for the towers to copy to. But it is now functional. Ideally, I'd want to skip having both though. Do you think I could use the first group to do all of this? Because that would be magic. Let's test it. No, there was no way to do it with just the first group. Okay, it's fine. It's a long network, but it is functional. Right, so that's that. That converts to a line. That gets swept. Brilliant. So that can go into the merge. I thought. So that goes into there. So no, I cannot put that in the merge. I need a separate merge. This is getting very chaotic, but I mean, if it works, it works. And that goes into there. That gets booleaned. All pretty. Got all of these additional details, which makes me very happy. And that gets plopped into this boolean, which gives us that. And then if we view it all together, we've got this, right? And then we can quickly check how much this is actually adding, and I'd argue it's adding a lot, so I'm happy. Why isn't the bottom visible though? Probably it's inside, it's fine. Right, so that gives us that. And for some reason that makes the towers look less obnoxious to me as well, so I'm happy about that. In terms of the profile though, do we want to keep it like that or do we want something more interesting? Choices, choices, choices. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. What's this doing? Separate network that never got connected up. Right. So, I'd argue that the towers are now fixed. Were they on my to-do list? No. I did verbalize that I wanted to fix them. I did, however, not write it down. But because I'm one of those people that works with lists, and I get very satisfied when I can get something ticked off the list, I've added that to the list so that I can tick it off. Right, so we've got that working. Yeah, what more can I say? I've got that working. Next thing we want to look at is probably, and I'm probably going to hate myself for this, but we're probably going to want to fix our arches. Right, so let's do that. Right. Right. Focusing for half a second. Or we can add the top. That would be more fun. That would be more fun. The other thing I'm sort of thinking about is maybe it would be fun to have these vertical edges here. But not on the roof, just for the completely horizontal ones. So maybe we could take a look at that as well. Right, so let's say that. And then I want a way to remove those, but include, can I do it with these maybe? Minimum angle, 0, maximum angle. Can I just invert this? Yeah, we're gonna invert it. And let's do group invert. There we go. And that is going to be, I need to clean up these groups, but anyway, sweep. And that's going to get converted to a line again. Now, is this what I'm meant to be doing right now? No, but I think it'll be fun, so we're doing it. Right, so that's going to be sweep, that gets plopped into there. Quickly going to merge them. So that gets plopped into there, that goes into there, and that gets plopped into there. And now, if all goes to plan, that'll magically work. And it does. Yay. Right. We are making progress. Is it quick progress? No, but it is progress. So, this is utter chaos. I'm really struggling to figure out which part of a network is doing what. But okay. Oop, I've just knocked my camera. That is brilliant. Thankfully I did not knock it over because my phone is on there. I say camera, but it's actually a phone. Right, so railing, we've got a random box that's not doing anything. Before I do anything else, we're saving. We are saving, and I think I'm going to save as actually because I've made a lot of changes. I've deleted some areas, I've reworked other areas, and yes. Right. Right. And then, right, brilliant. Okay, so, what are we doing? This is all related to the center archway. That is fine. I'm gonna plop all of these in there as well. That is also the center arch, side arches. So this is this mess. Alright. That gets match sized, etc. We've also got this. Now, I'd argue it's not the boolean that's the problem. Alright. So it's not the boolean that's the problem. We've got a match size, and that's plopping it over there. Which, let's view it from the front, showcases our problem. It's actually this initial sweep that's the problem. So that gets booleaned, swept. Why is the boolean? Boolean is not the problem. Sweep is not the problem. It's the edge group that's the problem. Can I scale this? No. Of course I can't. Right. So, in theory, we could fix this by only beveling what? Only beveling the top. If we only bevel the top, we'll get something different. Very descriptive. We'll only get something different. Right. Right, so we already only... So it's our initial box. Is at a funny scale. I might regret that, but we're doing that. Because this goes into that. That then gets transformed. I'm just going to see what that looks like. What have I broken? Right, that's probably this group, isn't it? No? Yes. That is enabled. Initialized. What am I doing? Curve from edges. Blasting us. This is getting swept. So we're looking for what? The exterior edge? Is this for the frame? Check. Yes, this is for the frame. Let's see what we can do about this group. Perspective. We don't... okay. We can work with this. That's going to be not that one. It's going to be this one. There we go. That gets swept. Alright, that gets merged. You're still shorter. Why are you still shorter? Why? You. It's not the boolean that's the problem though. So that gives me that. This is this portion in the middle, which is fine. Is this scaling? It is scaling by a little bit. We're removing the scale. No, but that takes it away from the... No, it does take it away from the bottom. So it's probably this scale influencing the match size. Maybe. Maybe. Alright. That's now working. What's not working is this. So, this is this. Brilliant. That's giving me that. I don't want to bevel the bottom. Why are you only beveling the bottom? Alright. Insert. What is this group doing? And this is why you need to label your things. Right. Right, let's initialize. Initialize. And then we are going to shrink this down. No, but this is for the bevel, it's not actually an inset. So that's all well and good, but that's actually wrong. So what I actually need is include by edges, maybe. Maybe we can do that. Remove the base group. We do. I don't want front and back to be selected. So let's see what we can do about that. That gives me that max angle. Right. What if we do... No, we probably don't want both. Hello. No, I don't want to key you. Let's delete channels. Is that going to fix it? Restore default. Let's say... Why did I key you? I didn't want to key you. I can't delete channels either. Let's undo. Thank you. There we go. If we do that, we get this. And that can then get beveled. But we don't want the bottom faces. So maybe we can combine it with normals and only have the top get selected. Oh, but they don't play prettily. They don't play prettily. And I don't want to do separate groups. Because I can do this with two groups, right? Have the base group and then take that value, create another group, etc. But if I do that, that's going to get very clunky. And I can't condense it down. Right. What are we doing? What are we doing? Can't do... The alternative would be beveling. No, but we don't want to bevel the faces. Because our current problem is as follows. Can we view it? Let's go down at the bottom. That's doing this nightmare of a mess. Alright. So we definitely don't want the bevel at the bottom. Which means we do need to figure out a way to group it without grouping the bottom. We could find a way to select the bottom faces and dissolve those. Let's do that. That is going to be another group. There's no avoiding that. But at least I'll have a way to get rid of the area I don't want. So we are doing binormals, and our direction is going to be -1, I believe. Right? And we want this to be primitives, and I'm actually going to view this, and I'm going to reduce the angle. There we go. That gets blasted. Alright? That goes into there, that goes into there, and this gets blasted. Right? That goes into there, where we're then selecting still the top and the bottom, because it's going by edges. What we could do instead... Oh, the reason why we don't want to do by faces is because then it well, would it? Yeah, it's going to do that as well. It's going to bevel these edges as well if I do by normals. What else can I do? What else can I do? We could then do by bounding regions, and if we initialize, no, that's going to give me that. Why does this have to be so difficult today? Right. I'm getting a lot of nothing done today, but anyway. So that gives me that. The alternative... What would be the alternative? What if we select... Can we build groups upon each other? But I'm gonna try something. It's probably not gonna work. But my thought process here is... If we grab the top, right? We grab the top. We use this as a base group. Let's avoid that. That's going to be another group. We use this as a base. Right? It's going to be group 18. And then we deselect. No, but it's already. Why can't I use a base group? That would make things so much easier. Unshared edges. Create ordered. Initial merge union. Subtract from existing. Initial merge. I don't think that's going to do anything. But it looks like it's getting rid. Okay. That's fine. Right, so that's not going to work. The easiest would be to stick to include by edges, right? And I actually do need this to be edges, right? That gives me that. And I think I used it with minimax. Now, of course, it's not working. Why is it not working? That needs to be off. Right. So, if we do that, the problem is I can't dissolve and just... Let's do a convert. Let's do a convert. Convert to line. No, but I can't convert to line because we're beveling this. Right. We can't blast it. Why is this stumping me today? Let's think. Normal direction can't play off of. Or can it? What if we flip it around? What if we flip it around and we do two groups? We use the base group as group 18. I don't want to do it that way though. We are doing edges. Group 18. Alright, geometry. Do I get edges? No. Edges on top option. Brilliant. And then we keep our normals. We do it this way. We've left off. We have left off finally. Finally. We can do group 18. No, I lie. Group 19. So, bottom line is, the solution is I need to be able to, well, no, let me rephrase. You can't have your first group be by normal and your second group by edge. It needs to be by edge and then by normal. At least it seems that way, but let's test it. Because technically these values should work. So let's plop that there. We then not have a base group here. Right, so that gives us that. No. I need to flip it. I need to flip it. I think. No. No. This one is by normal, so that is doing that. And if we then grab this and plop it by base group edges, group 19, and we then, yeah, but see, that's why it doesn't work the other way around. Because if I change these values, that actually selects more than just the base group. Okay, so bottom line is I was again correct. You need to do the normal, and then you can use the normal alongside the edge group. Brilliant. That fixes it. We've made progress. So that gets a polybevel, and the rest should in theory work. But there's still... Ray, are you still not working? I know I said in theory. Fuse, group inset, poly extrude. Oh, that's still beveling those corners. You know what? I don't think it bothers me. We're ignoring the corners. The corners can bevel. It's such a little piece, it quite honestly doesn't bother me. Or we can delete that top. No, I lie. The bottom faces as we initially planned, and therefore there would be no faces there. It wouldn't be extruding that way, and it won't bevel that way either. So we can do that. We are doing more groups. We are doing more groups. Can you guys believe it? Group upon group upon group. Right, I'm actually going to grab a new group because figuring out which settings I messed with versus didn't is going to be a nightmare. Alright, so we are grabbing that, and then we're keeping by normals, and that is going to be 0, and then -1. Basically, quick, something you probably know, but this basically just goes X, Y, Z. I know X is up. No, I lie. I know Y is up, so I know -1 is the correct one because I want to select the bottom faces. So there we go. Alright, and then we can blast that. Why not? We do a blast, that gets blasted, that gets plopped into there, that goes to there, and then delete. Now we want to delete selected actually, so that's going to be group 20. Plop that all into there. Making a little bit of space here. No, I don't want to move that, I want to move that up. There we go. That goes into there, and now it can no longer bevel the bottom, so therefore, if we pop down here, that's not fixed. What did I break? And I was so optimistic as well. That gets fused, that's fine. Group inset. That goes there, that goes there, that goes there. So that's functional. Is the scale? It seems to be. Does this need to be that 0.05? Why is it doing that? Alright, let's see. Group. Right, headphones died. I thought delusionally perhaps that it would cope with it, but anyway. Right, so the reason we can't delete the button is because if we're doing an insect, we get this. Wait, where is it? We get that. Right, so it's not an option to blast the bottom at this point. What we could do, can't do it by normal direction. What can we do about this? Could we flatten? It's going to really mess up my geo though. And that's even if I flatten, it's not going to fix my bevel. Because it's still. Let's try flatten. Why not? Okay, that's obviously too much. We just want can I go below that? There we go. And then if we bevel, I don't want to bevel the bottom. Right, so that's not going to work. Right, so there's no way to avoid this at this stage, at least that I can figure out. So for the sake of actually moving on and getting things done, I'm going to ignore the problem until it goes away. Will it go away? No. That will not go away. I'm going to trick myself into thinking it will. Brilliant. So next thing is I'll probably maybe start looking at stairs. Yeah, why not? Bear in mind, stair placement is going to be very difficult because my initial thought process is we use the width of the tower. However, this is going to work because the width of the tower is narrower than this portion. Alright? So that's not an option. We could, you know what we can do? We can use the key. We can use the key for the placement. Where is my little cutout? There's a side artist, that's fine. Carmen, fine. Window sweep, window boolean. What's this? Oh, that's Carmen. Right, top arch boolean. That's this guy. So that gets booleaned out. Where's this coming from? That gets booleaned into there. But that's so much bigger. How is it getting cut out? There's no scaling anything here. I'm confused. But okay, I mean it works. I don't know why it works, but it does work. So I'm gonna leave and hope for the best. Will I ever be able to replicate what I did there? I don't know what's going on there. But okay, so we are going to use this for our matching size, etc. So what we will do is we're making a cube. And I'd argue, I'm very confused. That gives me that. What is this? Oh. Right. So that goes there, that goes there. So that is boolean. That's additional boolean. So this is the first boolean. So that's cutting that out. And that's the second boolean. So typically what we want to be doing is actually adding the stairs from that point. Right. Right. I'm actually going to, can I use the initial box? Yes, I can. Because that's already going to be the perfect width. Height is going to be incorrect. But let's do, 1 is probably still going to be too much. So let's do 0.25. Can we template this? That's probably going to have to be 0.1. Right, and then of course it needs to be significantly shorter, so that is going to be start 1. We technically want 3 stairs. Let's do copy and transform. We want to go up by 0.1. And then actually want to match size first. And then we want it to be there, I think. And then if we were to then copy and scale, it should in theory scale correctly. So let's do, I don't know, 0.75? Is this more like 0.1? You know what we're going to do? We are going to do that. That fixes not that. Because the pivot is still at the center of the geo. No? Then why? I don't care. We're doing 0.25 then. There we go. And then if we were to scale again, that gives us that. Now, I'd argue that's not enough. So let's do... Let's see if that looks weird. It looks very weird. Let's make that slightly shorter. Is it going to fix it? No, it's not going to fix it. But it gives us this. No, I don't want to change that. I want to change this. So that's going to be 0. Right? Right? 0.75. Then better. I don't like how these are playing off of each other. I really don't. Because it's not scaling evenly. It's scaling by percentage. Which is not quite ideal. It's not ideal. However, it's going to be enough for us to see whether this is working. So, that size is doing a lot. So, we go on that size. Alright, so that goes there, this goes there. And then we don't want it to go on the more Aussie direction. But we do want it there. Alright, so that then gets merged. And that goes into there. And that goes into there. And that gets merged. Actually not. It does get merged, but I don't think merging is the right call because this is going to get forward. And we don't want the stairs to be there, we only want the stairs to be there. So we've got two options. Either we keep them split out, or what? Let's keep them split. Is it ideal? No, but it's something. It's functional. So that gets boolean and actually ideal this too much. No, wait. So that goes into the boolean, which is there. And that gets merged. This. Not one more stairs then. We would argue that's too low. We'd want that to be up to that level. Right, so back to the drawing board of our stairs. I don't think the height of our stairs is wrong. I just think the size of them is wrong. So let's do 1.25. And then we can copy and change for but it gives us that effect. I absolutely despise that. What if we do 2, adjust that scale. Now what we're going to do, we're not going to adjust the scale. We're going to adjust the placement. Right? So you know, that going. Which direction? The opposite. So that's going to be minus 0.2. I know the left size is not working, so we'll do that right. Let's adjust the number of copies. And then, the plan is basically palette. So what we do is similar to what we did before.
And it's still not tall enough. Unless the doors are lower than the window. Oh, for all we know. Right. So, number of copies is technically incorrect. So we can probably afford 7. Right? Well, maybe the stairs are visible. Don't want the stairs visible. Really don't want the stairs visible. Right, okay, we're transforming it. Right. Focus it. Focus, focus, focus. So that's going to be scaled. And then the top stairs obviously ugly. So could do, we keep 8 copies, no, 7 copies, and then with the flatten, we're reducing the amount. Let's go over here. Let's copy. It's the let's mask. Let's mask. Let's go strength. It's move. I want to rotate. I want to move it. I want to move it. Rotation is fine. You're done. Move that there. Yeah, we need that there. Okay. The problem is if we make size that, we get this. And that's probably further out as well. And yes, indeed it is. So, if we were to change this value, that fixes that. I don't like what that stairs doing. I've moved the camera again, sorry. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? We do need the flatten. We do need the flatten. So what's technically not working is the way the flatten is working. That's going to be flatten point. So we do need this to be somewhat stuck at the origin. That is one good. What is technically not working is this portion. So what if we actually change the value here and make the stay shorter overall, and then we might have this, and then also we might change the placement. Is the stay a little bit short? Yes. Yes, it is. But it's not too long. Right. I've got stairs. Nothing more. But we do have stairs, which it's not much better than enough in and of itself. I did not think we were getting stairs at the rate that was going. So there's that. And I can also more or less. We could have stairs on both sides. Do I want stairs on both sides? Do we? Do we? Do we? Do we? We might. We might. Okay. Right. Let's focus on offsetting. I'm actually going to repurpose this now. And instead of getting 1, Should we use a little bit so I'm not scared? Yes. That. That's fine. It's quite a big existing this is that. Right, so instead of doing me, but that's the wrong way around. We're first going to have to rotate this. So let's do transform. Would it be easier just to mark before the map size? So if we have these, we can just move it. Yes, we can just move it. Okay, that goes into there, that goes into there, that goes around that. I don't want the original, so let's do this, lower this one. And up there, and that goes there. And now it's going to go like X, right? But it's actually going to go next that way. Then we merge, that goes there, and there, and then that gets merged. Right? I think so. Brilliant. That doesn't take work. Okay, you can see as both ways, you go down there, up there, and then we need to run out a door. But I think that'll be a problem for next week. So, that's basically what we did. We didn't get very far. Actually, I did not get very far, but I fixed a few things, and I'm happy with that. Edit stays, edit sweeps, removed, fixed my wood hardware. And also, we've got a lot of edge automatic load times, so I call that progress. Alright, I'll see you next time, and thank you for joining me and sitting through an interesting time. To me, it's lovely, but it is also very frustrating. Okay, well, that'll be it for today. So, bye, guys.